Travelpayouts, and today we are having a very special guest who is a travel blogger, a travel expert, and a best-selling author, Mike Swigunski. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Kate, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it and looking forward to talking about all things travel related.
Okay, cool. I hope that I'm not butchering your surname, so just tell me if I am, okay?
Yeah, no worries. Swigunski. It's a tough one.
Okay, mine is also tough. Okay, so I know for sure that right now you are in Georgia, right?
Yeah, we've been in Tbilisi since the beginning of February.
Okay, and so how is the situation there? I mean, like, how is the lockdown there? Probably.
Yeah, everything's honestly, it's been pretty impressive to watch the Georgian government. They've been handling the situation really well. Around the 17th of March, they started closing down the borders, started closing down restaurants. We actually had planned a trip to go to Baku across the border to
Mm-hmm.
see the city and for an anniversary kind of thing, but it got canceled like the day we were supposed to go. But luckily, we were
Yeah,
able.
shame.
Yeah, we didn't get stuck on the other side of the border, which is nice. So even though we weren't
Yeah.
able to make the trip, I definitely support Georgia's decisions. They've been very preemptive with closing the borders, kind of making some really smart decisions early on, and comparatively have had some of the lowest number of cases in the world, which is great to
Mm-hmm.
see.
Yeah, and I think at least you can stay in Georgia and enjoy their wine and tortilla probably so, which is a very good thing.
Yeah, we've
Okay,
been
Mike.
enjoying a lot of kachaporis.
Yeah. Oh, I'm jealous. Okay, so Mike, you can probably introduce yourself better because honestly, my introduction was way too brief and way too short. So probably you can tell, not probably, definitely, you can tell people more about yourself.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, my name is Mike Swigunski. I started travel blogging back in 2014, but I got started traveling a lot earlier. I started my first trip internationally was around 2009, and since then I've actually visited more than 85 different countries. I've been
Wow.
traveling full time for over a decade now, and I consider full time travel just being where I'm spending around 340 days outside of my home country. Some of that is
Mm-hmm.
is based somewhere like, I've spent a few years in South Korea, a few years in South America. So usually have some sort of hub, but from that hub, I'm doing a lot of traveling and was able to visit more than 85 countries. And we'll hopefully get back to it at some point in the near future. So
Honestly, you're making me feeling like a loser because I've noticed that you have so many projects and you're handling them, and I just can't handle a single one. So, okay, I kind of checked your LinkedIn accounts. Okay, probably we can start with one of your projects, which is really, I think, similar to a lot of our affiliates. You have
right.
a travel blog, Sweetmeats World. Can you
Yeah.
just tell us
So
more about it, like a story behind the blog? Just
Yeah, so I
information.
actually was studying my MBA in South Korea, and at the time I had some extra free time, and at this point, a lot of my friends and family had kind of realized this wasn't going to be kind of a 1 year thing. Like at this point, I'd been living overseas for around 3 years, and I started getting so many Facebook questions, and people just like, what should I do when I go here? Where's your favorite travel destination? And all this stuff that I was like, man, I'm sending, 30, 40-minute long Facebook messages. And then I started getting people asking the same questions. And I was like, man, I just need to create a travel blog. I can write one in-depth post and just send it to these people who are asking me the same questions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's essentially what sparked Sweetmeats World, was to just help friends, family, help other travelers who are kind of going through the same sort of issues. And from the beginning, it was just kind of a fun project to share photos, share travel journeys. And over the time, it's kind of evolved into something where I'm able to build my personal brand,
Mm-hmm.
make money through affiliates, through guest blogging, and all other types of online monetizations. So it's been quite of an adventure, and it's kind of slowly stepped onto everything else I've done with publishing a best-selling book and creating some of my current projects. So it's been quite the
Okay.
journey.
Yeah, and the next question is like, how did the COVID-19 affect your business? And if it did, so like how? I think it's
Yeah. So literally, I think 2 or 3 weeks before things really started escalating, I had just launched a travel hacking masterclass where I teach people how to get $5,000 in free travel. And the initial like beta launch was really good. Everyone was really stoked on it. But then, people like, I can't travel right now. Travel is kind of like the last thing that I want to make an investment on. So immediately when that started happening, I just started getting creative and was like, where can I pivot? My personal brand has kind of three main pillars. One is travel. The other one is remote working. And the other one is entrepreneurship. So within like 2 or 3 weeks, I was able to pivot to remote work and building offers and kind of tweaking what sort of business model I have. And that's one of the great things is being able to switch and being able to stay creative in this time is going to be one of the strongest ways forward. I know a lot of travel bloggers out there who are really struggling, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this kind of chaos to present an offer to make money with your travel blog. You're just going to have to figure out what's going to work best for you. And I've got some interesting tips for people later on.
Okay, so probably we can discuss them a little bit later. But for example, I've noticed that you were employed by the company who was helped these customers manage their online businesses, right? To sell them, to buy them, to invest in them. And for example, what would you recommend to travel bloggers, to people who have online travel businesses right now, which they used to make money with, and right now they just can't do this anymore? So would you recommend to sell this business or just to invest in it?
Right. Yeah, I think it really depends on what type of tier you're at. So if you have a website that's earning at least $1,000 per month in profit, you can easily sell that for 30 times your monthly net profit. So if you're making, $1,000 a month, you can sell that for $30,000 to $40,000, and you can get all that money up front. But if you've gone from $1,000 a month to $0 a month, you don't really have an asset you can sell because buyers are going to want to be interested in your trailing 12 months of profit. So it really depends on your situation. And I would say if you're still earning money, you're not super certain on the industry, and you just want to get 25, 35 months of net profit in a bulk sale or right now, then I would consider submitting your website to see what type of valuation it would get. And the good thing about this is they do sell fairly quickly depending on what type of business you have.
Yeah, like even right now when the travel industry is at its worst, I would say.
Right. Yeah, they still are. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be a little hesitant to buy solely travel businesses. But if you're still generating traffic, if you have a mixed monetization website, so let's say you have 4 or 5 different ways that your blog is being monetized through ads, through affiliates, through other type of offers, then that's going to be a lot more appealing. But I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit hesitant right now to buy a travel-based business. So the thing is, it's you can put it out there. It doesn't really cost you anything as long as you're still managing the business. You can see what type of offers, because there's always going to be the buyers who are going to want to buy this business. They know the travel industry is going to bounce back. They can focus and take the business in another direction that maybe you never thought of. And they're able to take this asset and shift it in something that they know will be profitable in the future. So their incentive, the buyer's incentive, is that they're going to get something at a discounted price. So it really depends on your financial situation and kind of how you see your business going in the future. So I would say it's worth considering at least.
Okay, so I see that unfortunately there is no general recommendation right now, but yeah, still there are ways of what to do next. And speaking of ways of what to do next, I've noticed that you posted our survival kit for travel bloggers on your websites. And honestly, I'm kind of gathering feedback for our team, just whether it was useful or not for you. And if it was, so what points were useful?
Yeah, I would say overall it was extremely useful. If you guys haven't read it, hopefully Olga can put the link in the live so everyone can take a look. I would say the biggest points though right now is you just got to be flexible and willing to kind of transition to other options and just test stuff. And I think when people get that mindset, You can't just test it for a day. You have to try testing one very simple part of your business and seeing if that element, if you can make changes to that and increase your revenue. So I think people just need to really, like I keep saying, get creative, test something and make sure you're measuring it correctly. So pick one element. I would go into your Google Analytics, take your top 10 highest traffic pages, figure out one element you can take. Maybe it's adding ads, changing affiliates, some other type of offer. I've recently switched all of my blog posts to having a banner now where it's like, hey, if you're interested in submitting a guest post, and some people will submit and I'll just get some good content from them, but you can also charge for guest posts as well. That's another great service. And I still get a lot of offers now just by literally taking one little image, putting it on all my blog posts. I've really diversified my monetization for the blog. And I get a lot of people who are interested in just, using that for SEO purposes, getting the blog post, getting a guest post. So there's a lot of ways to still monetize your blog. You just got to try it, test it out. And make sure you're using Google Analytics to test out those top 10 highest traffic pages. Give it 30 days and see how it performs.
Okay, cool. So I probably also have a question to our audience, like whether you have, well, of course you do have travel blogs, and how are you dealing with the current situation right now? And we have this question, but I think you already answered it, like what monetization strategies work for you now, for your blog now?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, adding the guest post element, so making that more prevalent. Before it was hidden in some sub-menu if people wanted to submit a guest post, and now it's a banner on every one of my blog posts. If you're interested in doing that, you can get in touch, and I'm able to I went from probably getting 1 or 2 a week to getting 2 or 3 people contacting me a day just by making that little small tweak. The other way that I'm pivoting is adding ads like a Zoic and AdSense. Those are 2 really good platforms that are going to be, giving you display monetization by inserting ads on your website. So those are some really good options if you haven't considered. It really depends if you're how much traffic your website's getting. If you're getting over 10,000 page views, then I would look into a Zoic. If you're getting less than that, I would just start off with Google AdSense.
Okay, cool. So we have another question here. Do you plan to discuss travel news today? Not really. We've already discussed the situation in Georgia, but no news today. Like, just it's going to be an interview. Okay, Mike, thank you. And well, what else? What I wanted to ask, you have another website, which might be very useful for our affiliates, because I think that a lot of travel affiliates, they want to leave their 9-to-5 job and to turn their traveling into some kind of lifestyle. And your blog is about remote work, right? Can you just tell more about it?
Yeah, so Global Career is a #1 best-selling book. And essentially the title is Global Career, How to Work Anywhere and Travel Forever. And it touches on a lot of aspects of remote working, working abroad in other countries. And I've really kind of honed in on the remote work because so many people are getting tossed into it. And right now is the best time, if you're not working remotely, trying to, one, keep your performance up, but also see how, things are going to start going back to normal. And you're going to want to have those conversations with your current employer about, hey, I was able to do X, Y, and Z. My performance was even better than when I was working in the office. Can I continue working remotely? And if you are performing well, they're going to have no reason to say, yeah, I need you to come in the office, even despite the performance is going to go down. So I think being able to kind of negotiate that's going to be really important. And that's one of the easiest ways is to, one, talk to your current employer, see if they're open to going and letting you transition to working remotely full time. But the other way is just finding a remote job. And we actually have a free remote job board for anybody who's looking for some type of remote job. It's mostly non-technical, so marketing, sales, customer service. So if you're looking, if your travel business is taking a hit, this might be a good time to try and find a remote job so you can work on both.
And I think that because of the current situation, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, unfortunately, and probably some of them can consider like another path, another career path. But I have another question here. For example, I'm sitting at home like for ninth week already, and already I just don't really think that I'm enjoying it, if you know what I mean. Like I miss people, I miss my team, and I'm even miss my like office table. So is this remote work like for everybody? Is it meant for everyone?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not meant for everyone. And I would say right now is not the fair comparison because, remote work is different for each person. Like, we'll spend a few days working from home, but then we'll go to a cafe, we'll go to like a 5-star hotel and work in the lobby, just order some food and drinks and stuff. So we're getting out, we're having those social elements. We're still going to like meetups and meeting with people. So right now isn't the most fair comparison of what remote work is like. So I think you need to keep that in consideration. We're working remotely with a pandemic in a economic crisis. So there's a lot of other factors that are going to make things hard. But I think, it's depending on your home situation, investing in another office, investing in a good chair, a good sort of desk, and even depending on what your office situation or your apartment situation's like, we're able to like change apartments solely based on what the remote work setup would be. So we're trying to find places that have 2 really good places for both myself and my girlfriend. We both work remotely. So trying to find a good office, a good, comfortable chairs that are in the apartment, and ones that have a lot of space. So yeah, if you're looking at a new apartment or looking to rearrange your current apartment, there's a lot of ways you can get creative, and it doesn't have to be that expensive to kind of upgrade your apartment.
Okay, just a quick break because I think that we have questions from the audience.
Yep.
Like a question to you, Mike, how much of a traffic drop have you seen since beginning of March?
So for Global Career, I've seen a huge peak because it's a remote job board and so many people are searching. For Sweetmeats World, it's been pretty consistent. I haven't seen because the blog is so old, a lot of my highest ranking articles they haven't moved. But I would say people are still interested in travel. Like they're going to want to get back to this as long as you're staying relevant, as long as you're kind of putting, doing some sort of SEO research, because there's going to be a lot of opportunity right now. So if you're not doing any keyword research, you need to go back, see what people are searching right now, and start writing articles about that. This is still a great time to capitalize. There's so many people interested in, when will travel get back to normal? I think one of the biggest opportunities for anybody that's a travel blogger now is if you're talking about international travel, to start focusing on your inter-country travel. So whatever country you're focused on, maybe that's something local in St. Petersburg. Here's the top 10, places to go during the coronavirus in St. Petersburg. Stuff like that is going to be really relevant. It's going to have a lot of search intent. And if you can figure out a way to try to monetize that, then you'll be able to stay current and stay relevant and continue getting that type of traffic.
Okay, so it's a very good piece of advice. Well, we have another question. Like, do we have any tips for starting a travel blog right now? It's a very tricky question, I would say, like right now, but okay, probably you can answer this.
Yeah, I would say I get a lot of people asking me about starting travel blogs, and I kind of look at the mistakes that I made. I started off just writing about what I love, which is great. But I think if you're going to go into it either as a hobby or as a business and kind of coming up with that mindset, do you want it to be a hobby or business? And then figuring out how you want to monetize it and kind of working backwards. So if you want it to be a business, start looking at some of the best paying affiliates, some of the best offers out there, and then building a very specific niche. Maybe it's luxury travel in Russia, luxury travel in, another location, but just focusing on that location. Because a lot of travel bloggers, including myself, we start off too broad and you're not really able to become an expert on one area. So I'd figure out kind of what type of travel you're interested in and trying to start off with a niche, within the travel blogging niche. So that's definitely the best way to get started.
Yeah, but I think like to start a travel blog right now is really complicated because you just don't travel. You can travel from kitchen to, I don't know, to the bedroom, and that's it. And that's a problem because you just have to search for this content, and that's
Right.
really complicated.
But yeah,
Okay.
I still think, getting something up now, I mean, right now is not a bad time to start, because your articles are going to take, from my experience, it takes around 8 to 12 months to even get your articles ranking in Google. So I would figure out what people are searching for now, but also seeing where you think the trends are going to go, and start writing about that stuff. It's very hard to predict, but as long as you're doing the research and you can look at the keyword trends, you can still start driving a lot of traffic on travel. People are still going to be obsessed with it. But again, I think it's going to open up where your country is. There's going to be a lot of local travel happening before any international travel does.
Yeah. Okay. So I have one more question for you because I think that we are running out of time, but still have a couple of minutes. Like I've noticed that, well, your LinkedIn account says that you've been to more than 85 plus countries. 85?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And honestly, I haven't been to 85 countries yet, but even for me, this whole situation with closed borders is pretty depressing because knowing that I can't leave the country, well, it's really depressing. So how are you struggling, and how do you survive right now? Because you just love traveling and...
Yeah, it's been really tough. And my girlfriend and I are very fortunate that we just spent the last 3 months traveling almost full time. We were in the States, we were in the Maldives, Sri Lanka, India, Bhutan, Bangladesh. So we just went on this huge travel stint. And then we got to Georgia and we're like, all right, we're going to stay here for 3 months because we're honestly fairly exhausted. But already we've had 4 or 5, future trips canceled. I think for me, it's just finding some other hobby. Like I'm so passionate about travel that I've kind of put that energy and focus into other projects. And I think if you can't travel now, figuring out something that's going to make you more money, figuring out a skill that you can work on and develop that's going to help you in the future, all of that's going to give you more money, more time to travel when travel does start opening up. And right now is the good time to just start laying that groundwork, that foundation for when we can get back to a normal travel life.
We also advise people to just use this time effectively, this downtime period in the industry. But we have a very good question here, I would say, because we understood that you have a lot of projects and you can just kind of switch one project to another. But there's a question like, what should people only with the travel blog do? For example, if my travel blog is the only way of income, and it's a very problematic situation, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I think it's tough. Like I mentioned, I would try to figure out what other parallels through your blog, what you can do with that blog to try to monetize it. Whether that's focusing on, the current situation, writing more about coronavirus topics or things that are really buzzworthy, and then testing other monetizations, because you might not be getting as many people booking flights and hotels, but you can still get advertising revenue for driving traffic. So if you're looking at keywords that are getting, 100,000 searches a month, and you're able to rank for those keywords, you're still going to be able to generate ad revenue. You can switch other platforms. Like I've just launched a YouTube channel. It does take a long time to build up to get it monetized. But again, that's something you can start working on. You can start adding video elements to your blog. So I still think, don't just give up on it. Continue the blog running, but just try to figure out and test around and see what other type of monetizations will work for you.
Okay, so these are your recommendations for the travel community, right?
Just hang in there, guys. It's going to be tough, but I think the people who give up, they're gonna be on. There's gonna be less competition. For those of you who are figure out a method to switch, to stay relevant, and to keep ranking in your travel blog posts, they're going to see a lot of competition get knocked out by these hard times. So the people who survive will really thrive in this environment.
And for example, like last but not least, your predictions regarding the current situation. But please, if those predictions are negative, just okay, I can live with it. But do you have any predictions?
So my number one prediction is that, again, first, stuff is going to start opening up locally. So like here in Georgia, I think within 2 months, I'll be able to travel. We'll be able to travel locally around the country, probably not on public transit, but through private car, through renting a car, stuff like that. And that's going to be probably the norm for the next 3 to 4 months, where countries are just going to be very strict on who they're letting in. The international travel won't come to a full stop, but it's going to be really difficult. And I think you're going to need some type of proof that you don't have coronavirus. I think that's going to be similar to how they check you for yellow fever. I don't know if you've been to any locations, but we have a yellow fever like certificate that we have to carry around with us, and you have to show it to some locations that you're traveling to. So it's just, you went in, you have the yellow fever vaccine, you're able to carry around this piece of paper that has a stamp on it. The airline asks for that, and without it, they won't let you board the plane. I predict that something similar will probably happen, where you're going to need some sort of certificate like that to actually travel. And the other thing that I see is you'll probably need, people are going to start requiring more health insurance. So a lot of countries do require that, but I think that's going to be an increased thing where they want foreigners to make sure that they have health insurance, and they'll be testing that. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I think the travel industry will bounce back. But again, there's no way to really tell how long it's going to take. I'm hoping that it'll happen, September, around that time, things will start easing up. But again, there's no firm answer, just because anybody who says so is just guessing.
Yeah, it's just predictions, but I think that you're pretty optimistic, but we just want to stay optimistic too. Okay, so we have like a couple of questions, and then we can wrap up, I think. Yeah. There's a question like, would you recommend Georgia to visit?
Oh, yeah. We love it here. It's been one of the most welcoming countries. Both myself and my girlfriend, we're both, as digital nomads, we're looking for places where we don't have to worry about visas. We can stay here for a long time. For Georgia, it's for 1 year for Americans and for Colombians. So we didn't need any extra visa. We just show them our passport. They handed us a bottle of wine, and we're able to stay here for the next year. So it's been really welcoming, really a great value destination. It's actually statistically safer than Switzerland. So there's a lot of great perks here, good food, good sort of expat community. So I highly recommend people to come visit Georgia.
But I would say that like from my experience, you should be very careful with the local wine, because there's a lot of wine there and it's really tasty.
Oh yeah.
Okay. One more question, like, is it convenient to buy a travel site right now? I mean, probably not convenient, but is it okay to buy a travel site right now?
Yeah, I would honestly wait a month or so to see how the earnings play out. I think right now, it's a good time to start looking and see what the valuations are for travel businesses. Again, it's usually going to be 25 to 30 times that monthly net profit. But again, I would wait 2 months, see how things play out before you go and start buying anything. You just want to see how those earnings go for the next few months before you really pull kind of the trigger to buy a website. And I'm in the same position. I'm looking to buy a few other businesses, but I'm going to wait 2 to 3 months before I do that, and just monitor how those earnings hold up over the next few months. Okay,
cool. And we have like a list of questions about countries you've been to. Have you been to India, Ethiopia, Ukraine, Crimea? Crimea is a country.
I've been to India. We just spent a few weeks there. We were in Bangalore. We went to Jaipur, Varanasi, Delhi. We were all over the place. We actually went to an Indian wedding, and it was awesome, but we got sick on our last day with like food poisoning. And we bought these super extravagant outfits for the Indian wedding, and we made it there for like an hour and a half because we were so sick. We had to literally go back to our hotel, call a doctor to come visit our hotel room and give us some medicine. Luckily, it was only like 36 hours of feeling really bad, but we loved India. It was such a beautiful country. The food was delicious. Highly recommend it. But again, you kind of got to factor in, no matter how much you've traveled, that, you know, we were very cautious with what we eat, but it's just a matter of you're not used to that environment, that type of food. Most people do get sick. So I would try to factor that in. Make your plans a little bit more flexible if you're visiting India.
Yeah, it's really funny because a colleague of mine just really dreams of visiting an Indian wedding. So would you advise it? Would you just recommend it?
100%. If you get invited, get on a plane and go there. It's so much fun. It's a blast. We only got a small taste of it, but it was a lot of fun.
Okay, and the last question for today, because we're just running out of time. Which sector or country you think will be good to market, to advertise, probably? But we've already discussed it. I think like domestic tourism, like everywhere is going to be
right. Yeah, domestic tourism. I would say either go luxury travel. I feel like that's a really good niche to be in, because there's going to be so many cool luxury experiences. I think a lot of don't focus on huge group stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of solo travel, a lot of activities for people to do stuff in couples, maybe. So any of those type of businesses are going to be great. I think any of the big tour groups, a lot of that stuff's going to be really affected over the next year.
So yeah, probably you can start with the domestic travel. Yeah, tourism is going
to be. I would say look at the domestic travel and then look at what if you're following a certain country's political situation. Some countries are going to be way more strict after this, where, okay, we're not going to allow tourists to come here without all these things. Like in Thailand, for example, you need to have an exam showing that you don't have coronavirus, and you need an insurance that covers pandemics, which both of those are impossible to get unless you have symptoms. They weren't testing people in most countries, and most insurances don't cover the pandemic. So it's kind of like they made these really strict regulations where nobody can actually fulfill that. Nobody is able to meet those requirements. So you need to follow like the political situation, seeing, which countries are going to be more opening after this. I think with Thailand, that's going to be very temporary because they have such a big tourism sector. So things are changing on a weekly basis. So you really just have to follow it closely.
Okay. So Mike, thank you once again for joining us today, for just having this live stream with us. I think that we have no time anymore. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really hard to say like have a great time in Georgia, but have a great time in Georgia. Enjoy your time there. Yeah, thank you. All guys so much, and yeah, see you like next week. Thank you.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Thanks so much for the questions. And if you have any more questions, you can reach out to me on my Instagram, just Sweetmeats World. Send me a DM, and I'm happy to answer anything that you guys think of later on.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.